Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Pope Francis has kicked off his historic U.S. tour. During his 6-day trip, he'll be expected to share his message of compassion and simplicity with the world's richest and most powerful country. On Tuesday, both President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden personally greeted Pope Francis on the tarmac with their families after his plane landed at Joint Base Andrews near the Capitol. This is the first time the Argentina native has ever stepped foot on U.S. soil. We'll have more on the Pope's visit after headlines. In Egypt, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has pardoned 100 prisoners, including Al Jazeera journalist Mohammed Fahmy. Fahmy and his two colleagues, Bahar Mohammed and Peter Gresti, were sentenced to 3 years in prison last month for spreading false news. Gresti was tried in absentia. They were initially arrested as part of a crackdown on Al Jazeera following the ouster of President Mohamed Morsi in 2013. Fahmy is a Canadian citizen. He's reportedly the only one of the three to be pardoned. Bahar Mohammed remains in prison. In the United States, Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton has come out against the Keystone XL oil pipeline. Clinton had repeatedly refused to take a stance, citing her former role as Secretary of State and the State Department's key role in reviewing the pipeline. Rival candidates Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley have both opposed the pipeline, which would carry tar sands oil from Canada to the U.S. Gulf Coast. Hillary Clinton broke her silence Tuesday in Iowa.
I think it is imperative that we look at the Keystone Pipeline as what I believe it is, a distraction from the important work we have to do to combat climate change, and unfortunately, from my perspective, one that interferes with our ability to move forward to deal with all the other issues. Therefore, I oppose it. And I oppose it because I don't think it's in the best interests of what we need to do to combat climate change.
Senate Democrats have blocked a Republican bid to ban abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy. The move comes as a push by Republicans to defund Planned Parenthood threatens to shut down the government at the end of the month. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has scheduled to vote Thursday on a measure to keep the government funded through December 11th, but the measure also strips federal funding from Planned Parenthood. On Tuesday, New Hampshire Republican Senator Kelly who supports defunding Planned Parenthood, took to the Senate floor to scold her Republican colleagues for threatening to shut the government down again.
I'm tired of the people on my side of the aisle who are pushing this strategy, even though they know they don't have the votes to have it pass the United States Senate, and they certainly don't have the votes to override a presidential veto. And so, therefore, they can't answer the question, what's the end game for success here? Even if you feel as passionately about these issues as we all do.
The New Hampshire senator is up for re-election next year. The European Union has adopted a plan for member states to resettle 120,000 refugees through a quota system over the next 2 years. The vote was staunchly opposed by the Czech Republic, Hungary, Romania and Slovakia. It follows an earlier agreement to distribute 40,000 refugees across the continent. Britain has refused to take part, instead issuing its own plan to take in 20,000 refugees over 5 years. Speaking Tuesday, European Commission Vice President Frans Timmermans said the vote is a step forward.
In and by itself, the decision we took today is not going to solve the refugee crisis. But without this decision, I think we would not have been in a possibility to now take the next steps to make sure that we do better at protecting our external borders, that we do better at registering people immediately when they arrive, that we do better at making sure that people who have a right to asylum stay, but those who don't have the right to asylum are returned swiftly to where they came from.
Nearly 500,000 refugees fleeing violence in their home countries have reached Europe this year. In Yemen, the U.S.-backed Saudi-led coalition bombed 2 houses in the capital, Sana'a, killing at least 20 people. Similar airstrikes killed about 50 people on Monday. Meanwhile, former Yemeni President Abdurabu Mansour Hadi has returned to Yemen to spend the holiday of Eid al-Adha 6 months after he fled amidst an advance by Houthi rebels. In news from Syria, the Pentagon says a U.S.-led airstrike killed a French-born militant with alleged links to al-Qaeda 2.5 2.5 months ago. David Drudgen, an accused member of the Khorasan group, was killed July 5th. Meanwhile, retired General John Allen, the U.S. Special Envoy for fighting the self-proclaimed Islamic State, has stepped down, citing personal reasons. The Obama administration's transferred a Guantanamo Bay prisoner who staged a nearly 9-year hunger strike back to his native Saudi Arabia. Abdul Shalabi was brought to Guantanamo in 2002, accused of being a bodyguard for Osama bin Laden. He launched a hunger strike in 2006 to protest his indefinite detention without charge. His relief leaves 114 prisoners at Guantanamo, 52 of whom are cleared for release, many of whom have been cleared for more than a decade. In Los Angeles, California, Mayor Eric Garcetti and members of the Los Angeles City Council have declared a state of emergency over homelessness and vowed to dedicate $100 million to address the issue. The plan reportedly involves increased hours at shelters and more rent subsidies. The declaration comes just weeks after Los Angeles was chosen as the U.S. candidate to host the 2024 Olympics. In other news from California, President Obama has declared a major disaster for areas in Northern California scorched by the Valley Fire, the most destructive of the fires raging in the state. The Valley Fire has destroyed more than 1,200 homes, making it the third most destructive wildfire in California history. Governor Jerry Brown has connected the fires to climate change and California's historic drought, saying, quote, "This is the future." The former hedge fund manager who increased the cost of a life-saving medication by more than 5,000% has backed down on the price hike following a barrage of criticism. The drug Daraprim is used to treat toxoplasmosis, a parasitic infection which is particularly dangerous for people with HIV/AIDS. Martin Shkreli, head of Turing Pharmaceuticals, initially defended the decision to increase the drug's cost from $13.50 to $750, but he backed down in an interview with ABC News.
We've agreed to lower the price of Daraprim to a point that is more affordable and is able to allow the company to make a profit, but a very small profit, and we think these changes will be welcomed.
Martin Shkreli did not specify what the new cost of the drug would be. He's come under further criticism after it emerged his previous drug company bought the rights to a decades-old medication used to treat a rare and incurable kidney disease and hiked the drug's price by nearly 2,000%. Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton issued a plan to curb price gouging by drug companies, while rival Bernie Sanders touted his long-standing push to lower the cost of prescription drugs. The governor of Okinawa, Japan, has brought his battle against the construction of a new U.S. military base to the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. Takeshi Onaga addressed the council Monday after he was elected last year on a platform to stop the base. Speaking Tuesday, Onaga urged the international community to oppose the new U.S. base as a violation of human rights and self-determination.
The question is why the issue of bases and national security a human rights issue. Let me tell you this, Japan placed Okinawa for 27 years under U.S. military administration. We were neither Japanese nor Americans, and during that time many things happened, including a rape of a girl, a jet crashing into the ground of a primary school, and hit-and-run deaths by a U.S. soldier who was acquitted and sent home. And after the return, we found out there's a lot of pollution from toxins like dioxins, and there's an environmental issue. And even to investigate that, we cannot do it because it is not possible during the U.S.-Japan agreement.
Back in the United States, the Transportation Security Administration is defending its treatment of a transgender woman who says she was detained for 40 minutes at Orlando International Airport, harassed, repeatedly patted down, and instructed not to record the ordeal, all because a full-body scanner flagged her penis as a, quote, anomaly. Shadi Petoskey, who live-tweeted the incident Monday, ended up missing her flight. Advocates say transgender people are often subjected to invasive airport screening. When passengers go through a full-body scanner, TSA agents calibrate the scanner's male or female based on their perception of the passenger. Genitalia that doesn't conform to the scanner's standards for that sex may be flagged. At one point, Petoskey said an agent, quote, told me to get back in the machine as a man or it was going to be a problem. The TSA says its agents followed agency guidelines. And a new survey has found more than a quarter of undergraduate women have been sexually assaulted during their 4 years of college. A survey commissioned by the Association of American Universities found more than 27% of female college seniors reported some form of unwanted sexual contact carried out by force or by incapacitation from drugs or alcohol since entering college. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.